rain over Seoul that Thursday night didn't fall. It attacked. Clara Bennett walked out of the glass tower on Gangnam-daero at exactly 11:47 p.m., her white trench coat catching the wind like a flag. At 34, she was the invisible architect behind 3 of Seoul's most powerful investment firms. Nobody photographed her. Nobody quoted her. That was intentional. She didn't look like power. She looked like a target, which was exactly the problem. 2 blocks away, inside a black SUV with tinted windows and stolen plates, a man named Ryu checked a photograph on his phone. Blonde, white coat, exits the building alone. That's her. He wasn't entirely wrong. The woman in the photograph was Dana Cole, Clara's personal assistant, who had borrowed the coat that morning and returned it still smelling of lavender and airport coffee. Dana owed money to people she should never have borrowed from. Bad money. Korean underworld money. Clara had known about Dana's debt for 2 weeks. She had been quietly working to resolve it through back channels. She hadn't resolved it fast enough. The SUV doors burst open. Clara felt the hood before she heard the footsteps. Rough hands, zip ties, the smell of leather and gun oil. She was shoved into a vehicle that smelled like fear and fast food. She didn't scream. She counted. 3 lefts, 1 long bridge, 14 minutes of highway, the faint smell of the Han River. She knew exactly where they were taking her. The question was, did they know who they had just taken? The warehouse was cold, industrial, and deliberately terrifying. Clara was pushed into a steel chair beneath a single hanging bulb. Her wrists were zip-tied. Her coat was soaked. Her expression was completely, disturbingly calm. Heavy footsteps echoed across the concrete. Jang Dong stepped into the light. He was 38, sharply dressed in a black turtleneck and tailored pants, jaw like carved stone, eyes like a man who had never once been told no. He ran the Dong-ah Syndicate, Seoul's most feared criminal organization, with surgical precision and zero mercy. He looked at Clara the way a man looks at a problem he's already solved. Then he pulled out a photograph, studied it, looked up, studied it again. His jaw tightened. "Who are you?" he asked, his English cold and precise. "Clara Bennett," she replied. "COO of Hansei Capital Group, and you grabbed the wrong woman, Mr. Yang." The warehouse went silent. His lieutenant, Su-han, stepped forward. "Boss, she had the coat. She came from the building." "She is not Dana Cole," Jiang said quietly. Quietly was always more terrifying than loud. Clara tilted her head. "Your zip ties are cutting my radius bone at a 40-degree angle. If I rotate my wrist clockwise, they snap in 8 seconds. I haven't done it because I'm not finished talking." Jiang stared at her. "Also," Clara continued, glancing toward the east wall, "your pharmaceutical inventory is stacked 4 crates beyond the weight tolerance of those pallets. You'll lose roughly $90,000 in 3 days when they collapse." Su-han looked at the pallets, then back at Clara, then at Jiang. Jiang crouched slowly until he was eye level with her. "Cut her loose," he said. Su-han sliced the ties. Clara stood, smoothed her coat, and rolled her wrists once like she was adjusting cufflinks. "I want coffee," she said. "Real coffee. Not whatever that machine in the corner produces." "You are in a criminal warehouse," Jiang said slowly, like she might not understand the gravity. "I've been in worse boardrooms." He almost smiled. Almost. He led her upstairs to a mezzanine office. Glass walls, leather furniture, a professional espresso machine that looked completely out of place. Clara sat across from his desk, crossed her legs, and looked at him with the patience of someone who had already calculated every exit. "Dana Cole owes you money," Clara said. $2 million, Jiang confirmed, pouring 2 cups. "She doesn't have it. She will never have it. If you harm her, you get nothing and a body to dispose of." Clara accepted the cup without flinching. I, however, can get you your money, with interest. Why would you do that? Because Dana works for me, and I don't abandon people who work for me. Jiang sat back, watching her. In 15 years of running the syndicate, hostages cried, bargained desperately, or shut down completely. This woman was negotiating with the calm confidence of someone who held all the cards. It infuriated him. It fascinated him more. You think you can walk into my operation and throw money at me? No, Clara said, setting down her cup. I think I can walk into your operation and fix what's broken. The money is secondary. Nothing is broken, Jiang said firmly. Clara looked through the glass wall at the warehouse floor below. The chaotic movement, the misaligned loading docks, the paper manifests, the inefficient forklift routes. She looked back at him. Everything is broken. Jiang told himself he was keeping her for leverage. That was a lie, and somewhere beneath his armor, he knew it. By morning, Clara had commandeered a corner of the mezzanine office, requested 3 monitors, a Bloomberg terminal access code, and a whiteboard. Jiang had given her all 3, not because she asked, but because her first observation had already proven devastatingly accurate. The pharmaceutical pallets collapsed at 6 a.m., $87,000 in inventory, crushed. Suhan stood in the wreckage looking physically ill. Clara didn't say, "I told you so." She simply walked down, assessed the damage, and handed Yang a handwritten salvage plan before he could speak. He read it. Every number was correct. "How long have you known about our operation?" Jiang asked quietly. "Long enough," Clara replied. "That's not an answer." "No, it's a warning." She turned to face him fully. "You have a leak, Mr. Jiang. Someone inside this warehouse is bleeding your assets directly to your competitors. I spotted 3 separate discrepancies in your outbound manifests in the last 2 hours alone." Jiang's eyes darkened. "You've been reading my manifests?" "You left them on the desk. Paperwork is practically an invitation." He stepped closer, the kind of close designed to intimidate. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most reckless." Clara didn't move a single inch. "In my experience," she said quietly, "those are the same thing." Something shifted in the air between them. Not softness exactly. Something more dangerous, recognition. 2 people who had spent their entire lives being underestimated, finally standing in front of someone who couldn't dismiss them. Jiang stepped back first. "Find the leak," he said. "I want a name by tonight." By afternoon, Clara had the name. She sat across from Jiang in the office, a single printed spreadsheet between them on the desk. She didn't slide it toward him dramatically. She simply rested her hand on it and watched his face. "His name is Byun Tae-suk," Clara said. "Your head of distribution. He's been diverting high-value electronics to the Shin Collective for 4 months. He's using a shell company registered in Busan, paid through a credit card linked to a property your father originally owned." Jiang went very still. The room temperature dropped. "Your father's property," Jiang repeated. "Byun Tae-suk worked for your father before you," Clara said carefully. "This isn't just theft. He thinks you're dismantling everything your father built. He's preserving it, his way." Jiang stood and walked to the window. Below, Byun was directing loaders, laughing at something, completely unaware. "My father ran this syndicate for 30 years, Jiang said quietly. "When he died, half his men looked at me like I was a child playing dress-up in his office." Clara was silent, listening. "I've spent 6 years proving them wrong," Jiang continued, his voice tightening. "Building legitimate arms, cleaning money into real businesses, and someone I trusted is burning it down from the inside." He turned. His eyes weren't predatory anymore. They were tired. Clara recognized that tiredness. She wore it herself most mornings. "I lost my company once," she said quietly.
Someone I trusted handed our proprietary data to a competitor. I rebuilt from nothing in 18 months.
How?
I stopped trusting the wrong people, she said, and started trusting my own judgment.
The silence between them was different now. Softer, fragile. Neither of them acknowledged it. It happened at midnight, over cold takeout and a whiteboard covered in supply chain diagrams. Not romance, something quieter and more dangerous than romance, genuine connection. Clara had been rewriting Jiang's entire logistics framework for 6 hours. Jiang had stayed, watching, asking sharp questions, occasionally pointing out criminal-specific variables she hadn't considered. Somewhere between restructuring the distribution network and arguing about optimal truck routing, they had stopped being captor and captive entirely. "You eat while you work," Jiang observed. "Eating is fuel. I don't stop for fuel," Clara replied, not looking up. "When did you last sleep?" "Yesterday is a flexible concept." He slid a container of food directly into her eyeline. "Eat. The spreadsheets will survive 4 minutes." She looked up. He was watching her with something that wasn't suspicion or calculation. Something quieter. She ate. "Why do you do it?" Jiang asked. "You run half the city's investment capital. You have money, power. Why work this hard?" Clara was quiet for a moment. "Because the moment I stop, someone decides I only got here by accident." Jiang nodded slowly. He understood that completely. "Same reason I push toward legitimate business," he said. "Everyone expects me to be exactly what my father was. I want to be something he couldn't imagine." Clara looked at him, really looked, for the first time without calculating threat assessments. "That's either very brave," she said, "or very lonely." "Both," Jiang said simply. The whiteboard glowed between them. Outside, Seoul hummed its 3 a.m. frequency, distant traffic, wind, the river. For exactly 40 seconds, neither of them spoke. It was the most honest moment either had experienced in years. It came from an unexpected direction. At 2 a.m., Suhan burst into the office holding a tablet. His face was the color of bad news. "Boss, we found something in her bag." Jiang took the tablet. On the screen was a photograph. Clara at a private dinner 18 months ago, seated beside Chairman Shin of the Shin Collective. The same organization Byun was funneling assets to. The same organization that had been systematically dismantling the Dongha Syndicate's legitimate arms for 2 years. The room became arctic. Jiang placed the tablet on the desk slowly, turned to face Clara. The warmth from an hour ago was completely gone, replaced by something hollow and dangerous. "Explain this," he said quietly. Clara looked at the photograph. Her expression didn't collapse, but something flickered behind her eyes. "That dinner was a business meeting. Hansei Capital was approached for a merger consultation." "With my enemy," Jiang said. "I didn't know he was your enemy at the time. Did you know when you sat in that chair tonight?" His voice was a blade now. "Did you know when you offered to fix my operation? Was this entire performance designed to hand him the restructured blueprint of everything I'm building?" "No," Clara said firmly. "Then why is your assistant, Dana Cole, connected to Shin's personal financial network? Why does a woman who borrowed money from my table work directly for someone who dines with my greatest rival?" The silence was devastating, because Clara didn't have a clean answer. Not one that would land correctly in this room, at this hour, with this man who had just handed her something real and was now watching it burn. "Jiang, get her out of my sight," he said to Suhan. "Now." They put her in a locked room on the ground floor. No monitors, no whiteboard, just concrete walls and a single barred window overlooking the Han River, black and endless under the 4 a.m. sky. Clara sat on the floor, back against the wall,
and did something she almost never permitted herself. She thought about what mattered. Dana had lied to her. The Shin connection was real. She had discovered it herself 3 days ago and had been quietly building evidence to expose it before it touched anyone else. She had the documentation. It was encrypted on her phone, which was currently in Suhan's jacket pocket. She could wait. Let it resolve itself. Or she could choose. Upstairs, Jiang sat alone at his desk. The whiteboard Clara had filled still covered one full wall. Her handwriting was precise, angular, relentless. Every inefficiency she had identified, every solution she had architected. 18 hours of work for a man she had no obligation to help. He stared at it for a long time. His phone buzzed, an encrypted message from Bayun. "Movement tonight. Be ready." The coup wasn't tomorrow. It was now. Jiang stood. He needed to move. He needed his team. He needed... His door opened. Clara stood in the frame. Suhan hovered behind her, looking deeply uncomfortable. "She said she had something you needed to see immediately," Suhan said. "She also said if I didn't bring her up, I'd regret it." I believed her. Clara held up her phone. On the screen was a complete documented file, Dana's Shin connection, Bayun's full network, and a live transaction alert showing a massive asset transfer initiating in 40 minutes. "I found this 3 days ago," Clara said. "I came to Seoul to stop it quietly. Dana was already compromised before I knew. That photograph is real, and so is everything I've been doing in this building." Jiang looked at the file, then at her face. "Why are you showing me this?" Clara held his gaze without flinching. "Because you're trying to build something real, and I don't let real things burn." They moved fast. Clara sat at the monitors, fingers flying. Jiang stood behind her, one hand on the desk, watching the screens like a general watching a battlefield. Suhan coordinated the floor. The clock showed 31 minutes. "Bayun's transfer is routing through 3 shell accounts," Clara said. "He's liquidating your pharmaceutical and electronics inventory simultaneously. Everything moves to Shin's holding company in 28 minutes. Can you stop it?" "I already froze 2 of the 3 accounts," Clara said. "The third requires Bayun's personal authorization code, which means we need Bayun." Jiang straightened. "I'll handle Bayun." He walked out of the office, down the stairs, across the warehouse floor. Bayun saw him coming and understood immediately. He ran. He didn't get far. Jiang's voice cut across the warehouse like a sentence with no appeal. "It's over, Tae-suk." Bayun stopped, turned. His face was grief and defiance twisted together. "Your father would be ashamed of what you're turning this into." "My father is gone," Jiang said quietly. "What I build now is mine." He held out his hand. "The code. Now." Bayun entered it. Upstairs, Clara executed the final freeze. The transfer died with 4 minutes remaining. Every stolen asset, locked, recovered, documented. She leaned back, exhaled once, and stared at the ceiling. When Jiang returned to the office, the crisis was over. The room felt different, emptied of danger, but filled with something unresolved. "It's done," Clara said. "Your accounts are intact. Quarterly projections are up 19% with the restructured routes. Dana's debt is my responsibility. I'll handle it my way." Jiang stood across the desk. He reached into his jacket and placed something on the surface between them. A single matte black card, gold lettering. Dong-A Holdings, Strategic Development Division. "I'm building something legitimate," he said. "I need someone who sees what I can't. Name your terms." Clara looked at the card for a long moment. Then she picked it up. "I'll think about it," she said. She walked toward the stairs, paused without turning around. "Jiang." "Yes." Dana didn't know about Shin when she came to Seoul. Someone sent her here deliberately, to your table, to my office, wearing a coat that looked exactly like mine. The silence that followed was heavy. Someone, Clara continued carefully, wanted us both in this room. She descended the stairs. Her heels clicked across the warehouse floor. The heavy doors opened. The soul dawn swallowed her whole. Zhang stood at the glass wall, watching her disappear. He looked down at the warehouse floor, at Byun's empty station, the recovered inventory, the restructured operation humming with new efficiency. Then he looked at his phone, pulled up Dana Cole's original file, the one his men had used to track her, the tip that led them to Dana, the anonymous source that had flagged her debt in the first place. He expanded the metadata. The digital fingerprint of the original tip traced back through 4 encrypted layers to a single server address in Gangnam, the same building Clara worked in. Zhang's jaw tightened slowly. He looked at the door where Clara had just walked out. Wait, did Clara engineer this entire thing from the beginning? Was this rescue or manipulation? Drop your theory in the comments right now. We're reading every single one. And if you want to know what happens next between Zhang and Clara, like, subscribe, and tell us to continue their story. This one isn't over.